As I've come to correct information about the Satellaview in my research, I've learned that sometimes Nintendo themselves are the ones responsible for the misinformation. This video has some examples. Let's start by thinking back to the previous video I made. Remember this part? At first, I thought the line about players communicating with each other seemed like a mistranslation, but then I remembered back when Blue Sun translated for me some Satellaview History Museum archival data. This line here especially... Yeah, there's no more mistaking it from these translations. Nintendo wants people to believe that the Satellaview was a Netplay experience. That you were competing against whoever they said you were competing against live. When I read lines like this, it makes me think that Nintendo wants people to believe that the Satellaview is like X-Band with its Netplay features. Heck, at the time the X-Band was even around in Japan and making a bit of a splash. Nintendo may have wanted to undermine their success a bit. After all, nearly any modern-day online experience is at least slightly codified by X-Band. But while Nintendo claimed there was Netplay on the Satellaview, everything they did to try to make people believe it was there was all smoke and mirrors. All archival footage of BS Zelda and other Soundlink games show that they're mostly single-player experiences. Sure, many of the games were competitive in some manner, but usually this consisted of submitting a password in snail mail. And that completely shatters the illusion that the Satellaview actually lets you send data to it. Very rarely did the Satellaview have a multiplayer game, period. As for Yuki's Jigsaws, if it's anything like the Yuki no YY Kids ROM here, then Yuki is AI. And simply playing the game outside of the schedule would show it. I wouldn't be surprised in the least if people catching on to this eventually undermined the Satellaview's reputation. Yet regardless of that, Nintendo sticks to this story even long past the time Satellaview's expired. This reminds me a bit too much of how next-gen gaming is. This next lie is for the ROM pirates.
なお、このゲームはゼルダタイムという時間空間にのみ存在するプログラムです。メモリーパックにセーブすることはできません。
Nothing in that memory pack, folks. Move along now. To keep players from trying to play Soundlink games during off hours, what Nintendo actually did was keep the game downloaded and then locked in the memory pack, unable to be played. But that data? It's still in there. Where do you think that BS Zelda ROM came from, after all? A memory pack that appears empty might just have a Soundlink game inside, just waiting to be ROM dumped and restored. Or it might have a chunk of the game that's not exactly complete, but very playable regardless. Or it might have one of those weird sound journal things with a lot of placeholder graphics that aren't downloaded. But either way, stuff is saved to the memory pack. Now let's move from blatant lies into delusions. Check out the last paragraph of that announcement article. Nintendo expects to sell 2 million Satellaview packages a year. For reference, that's about half of what the Famicom Disk System sold in its entire lifespan. Nintendo expected the Satellaview to outdo the Famicom Disk System in 3 years? Either Hiroshi Yamauchi was nuts, or he was full of it. And I think the latter. This Famitsu scan shows the launch broadcasts for the Satellaview. Notice a pattern? I sincerely doubt Nintendo expected to sell 2 million Satellaviews on Wario's Woods and Picross. Usually, Nintendo launches its hardware with a solid killer app. The fact that they didn't for the Satellaview tells me that they thought very little of it, even as they were trying to sell it. And now I'm gonna bring this up again. BS Zelda, Game Pack, North America, the following black screen pretty much shows what came of that. Absolutely nothing. Of Nintendo's entire library of Soundlink games, only Sute Hakun and Shin Onigashima got cartridge releases, and that's very disappointing. This last one requires some translating of Famitsu. It seems Nintendo was asked about compatibility with the Ultra 64 and Virtual Boy, and their answer implied that they were seriously considering it. This is really interesting to point out, realizing that the Satellaview was released in the midst of the 32-bit console wars. The Super Famicom was not planned to be supported much longer, so Nintendo would say, yes, we're planning N64 compatibility to get people to buy Satellaview anyway. And it seemed, based on looking up the history, that they kinda tried, but looking at it another way, they announced the 64DD shortly after the Satellaview's release. And the 64DD is a big elephant in the living room in regards to whether Satellaview would actually be compatible with N64 down the line. For all intents and purposes, it seemed like the 64DD was intended to replace the Satellaview entirely, as opposed to simply supplementing it. Also, much of what made the Satellaview special was kinda undermined by the N64, which already had voice-acted games. And if the ADEM packs could not load Super Famicom data, what would be the point? Reading dinky magazines? If this was an actual plan, it was not very well thought out. I sound more tired in this video than usual, don't I? I've been really busy. It's been pretty stressful, but I think I'll manage.